I'm an employee at NASA. Today I found out the horrifying truth of the moon exploration. The rumors about the moon landing are false. It wasn't filmed in a studio. In fact, the real truth is much more horrifying than you could ever imagine. Turns out, there's a lot more secrets that NASA holds that aren't revealed to the public, or even the employees. That's why, when I saw that my boss's computer was left turned on, my curiosity got the better of me. Even as a staff at NASA, my boss reveals almost nothing to me. I'm just given the mundane tasks of sorting data. The real secrets are kept in an offline computer room with thousands of hard drives, the room where my boss works. I've been in the room a few times, usually to drop off hard drives. I normally just hand the drives straight to my boss, but today was different. He wasn't in the room, but there was a note on the desk that said he would be back. The note said to leave the drive on his desk, and so I did. However, as I looked up, I couldn't help but notice a faint glow on the wall behind it. The computer was on, the monitor lighting up the wall. This was strange. It was always shut down by the boss after a data dump. The only times I'd ever seen it turned on were days when he was in there, still working. This is when I made the mistake that ruined my life forever. With a slight spike in adrenaline, I walked around the desk and sat at the chair, ready to take back at least one mystery to the hive mind on the main floor. My heart pounded at the thought of my boss returning, but I noticed the computer was set up just like the rest of our PCs. Because of this, I knew just what folders to open and what digital stones to turn on my hunt for secrets. Most files I found were just boring old data, and after a few minutes of searching, I almost called it quits. But one document caught my eye. It was titled, Project Burial at Sea. This was what I wanted, a classified NASA project never before released to the public. At this moment, secrets were revealed to me, ones I soon wished I had never unearthed. Project Burial at Sea was, ironically enough, a failsafe against information leaks. It implemented the pre-existing infrastructure of NASA's unmanned missions to dispose of possible individuals leaking information. I was horrified. NASA was killing off possible whistleblowers and leakers to protect their assets. Being such a high-profile company, there was no way to dispose of bodies normally without being noticed, so the project called for the bodies to be buried on the moon, eliminating any potential evidence. The people who vanished made up a very small portion of NASA, so the ratio of missing persons in relation to their workforce was barely disrupted, deflecting any potential suspicion. The bodies are stuffed into the hollow spaces of the previously unmanned probes. Once they reach the lunar surface, they are collected by rovers and buried in the craters of a specific section of the moon's dark side. In other words, mass graves. I was floored. This document was not what I expected. I couldn't believe this sort of thing would happen in our country, and at NASA of all places, an organization I was involved with. Upon returning to my workstation, I had to say something to someone. I couldn't just keep this to myself. I turned to my coworker, Bill, someone I knew I could trust and would be able to keep a secret. Bill, I whispered, have you heard anything about NASA sending corpses to the moon? He stared at me a moment, an overly serious expression painted across his face. Then he laughed. Jack, you are a card. Where do you come up with this stuff anyway? You should write a book. Without so much as a sound to alert his arrival, my boss put his hand on my shoulder. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Jack, I've been meaning to talk to you. A big promotion in the works. Meet me in my office in 10 minutes. With that, he loosened his grip and traveled back to his room. My eyes widened, and my heart sank. Bill noticed something was wrong. What's wrong, Jack? You look as though you've seen a ghost. Promotions are a big deal around here. Only one every few months or so. Lisa was promoted last year and went on to supervise one of the unmanned probe launches. Haven't heard from her since. I turned to Bill and met his gaze. Bill, it's been nice working with you. He smiled before turning back to his computer. You too, Jack. 10 torturous minutes came and went. I hesitantly made my way to his room and slowly opened the door. The boss gestured for me to come in. Have a seat, Jack, and close the door. I unwillingly obliged. The thought of making a run for it crossed my mind, but I knew the security detail at the front gate would stop me. So, what is this about? I asked, my breathing now labored and sporadic. Like I said before, it's a promotion. NASA is recruiting from its affiliate outfits to supervise some of their unmanned launches. You've been selected. I tilted my head in disbelief. But sir, why me? I haven't done anything to warrant such a promotion, to my knowledge. He grinned. That's where you're wrong, Jack. We've been watching you. We know what you did. You can't deny it any longer. With a wicked smile, he stood up from his desk and walked over to me, his arms outstretched in my direction. His shadow covered the entire room, or at least it seemed that way in the moment. Without realizing it, I had backed myself into the corner, almost cowering in fear. That's when the door opened, and my coworkers flooded the room. Surprise! I stood upright, shocked. What's going on? Bill responded. Don't you know what day it is, Jack? The boss pointed at his wall calendar. It was September 18th, which according to them was my hire date. It all made sense now. It was a ruse, a practical joke at my expense. I thought this was weirdly unprofessional of my boss, who was usually extremely undercover and secretive. Something was off, but I went along with it. Did you really think I would leave my computer on unattended? My boss said suspiciously, almost as if he was hiding something. Bill chimed in. Bodies can't even decompose on the moon. moon, Jack. There's no air." They both let out hearty laughs. I laughed too, thoroughly relieved, not knowing the horrifying reality of what was about to come. After all was said and done, we returned to work, invigorated by the positive surge of energy and morale. After finishing my leftover tasks, I left with a smile on my face, happy to be Earthside, alive and well, for now at least. This mood would follow me the whole way home, but it wasn't alone. When I parked in my driveway, someone pulled in behind me. The overseer stepped out of the car and greeted me with a friendly wave. "Jack, can we talk?" House calls were unorthodox in our line of work, but not unheard of. "Of course, Coulter. Please come in." He followed me inside and joined me in the living room. I sat down, but he paced at the fireplace, looking over my family photos on the mantle. "You know, what Bill said was true. Bodies don't decompose on the moon. That bit was added by NASA. They put falsehoods in all of their classified documents. It's another failsafe, a detail they can point to in the event of a leak to make it seem illegitimate." I was utterly confused. "I'm not sure I follow. What are you getting at exactly?" He turned to me, a stern look painted across his face. "It's all real, Jack. The dead bodies, the craters, everything. You should have never sat at my desk." I chuckled. "Come on, Coulter, the joke's over. No need to drag it out." He wasn't laughing. "This is no joke. You were hired in July, not September. I sent out a last-minute memo to everyone in an attempt to avert your suspicion, since you were about to leak the secret to the entire team of employees. I saved you from getting killed. You're welcome. Here, we can discuss things privately. Very funny. My house isn't private. You're forgetting about my wife and daughter." A smirk touched the side of his cheek. He tossed me an envelope. Inside were photos of my wife picking up our daughter from school. My heart sank. "What the hell is this, Coulter? Are you following my family around?" "We've intercepted them. Let's just say they'll be late getting home tonight." The gravity of the situation was beginning to sink in. If everything I saw was indeed real, then I was now a target. I would soon become the next NASA casualty buried at sea. If I didn't escape and get help, Charlotte and Leslie would never be saved. My eyes darted for the door. Coulter noticed. "I wouldn't run if I were you. I didn't come alone." My blood boiling, I was tempted to lash out in anger. "Don't worry. They're safe." I remained silent, but livid. There are things in the universe you can't begin to understand. Things not only above your pay grade, but above your understanding. Things human words could never hope to describe. "Human?" I asked, perplexed by the wording. "Yes, Jack. Let me show you." What happened next was enough to put my mouth on the floor. He pulled up an odd-looking device, almost alien-looking. It was like an overly advanced iPad, with a realistic monitor unlike I'd ever seen before. "Come, Jack, get a closer look." As his hostage, I had no choice but to humor his demands. I leaned in, still frazzled. That's when I saw it. A crater filled to the brim with corpses. Why are you showing me this?" I asked in a shaky voice. "Just watch, Jack." I looked back to the scene and noticed something at the edge of the crater. 3 shadowy figures, far too tall to be human. They extended their arms, and a glow rained down from the space above the crater. The corpses. They moved. I watched in horror as the bodies were reanimated, but these were not living things. They were shells controlled by a puppeteer, bent to its sinister will. One by one, the corpses walked into the light until, finally, the crater was emptied. Then, the light dissipated, and the shadows spun in unison, taking off at great speed into the abyss of deep space. You see, Jack, Project Burial at Sea is more than a safety measure. It's a necessary sacrifice to them. "So, all those bodies?" I asked. No, only some were would-be whistleblowers. The rest, John and Jane Does, left at morgues across the country with no relatives to claim them." "Where did they take them?" I asked. "To the place where they live, slaves of an alien race. It's a truly terrible fate. We would all be there right now, if not for the deal we struck back in 1947. We placate their every need to keep them from developing a technology capable of mitigating the effect our air has on their bodies and spacecraft." I couldn't believe it. Everything I knew up to that point was a lie. Coulter walked to the door. "I like you, Jack. That's why I'm telling you all of this. I want to keep you on. You're a good man and a good worker. If you don't want to end up like the poor souls up on that hunk of space rock, you'll keep your mouth shut." I heard a car pull in outside. "Looks like your wife and daughter are home. We just took them out for ice cream. Hopefully they don't act too differently," he said with a terrifying smile.